cooking show, scene 1, take 1.
All right, welcome to Kitchen Captain. I'm Ian Walsh and we're back on the road. We've been camping for the last,
You're in the shot.
Of all people, Dr. Jones. We've been camping for the last 2 weeks in a very remote part of Africa, looking for some new waves. In particular, 2 potential new big wave locations. Our camp has had a dynamic duo that has absolutely slaughtered the cooking game, and Brett and Sally were kind enough to share a local recipe with us. It's going to be a Potjie pot lamb stew coupled with fresh bread cooked over an open fire right here. Let's go. Okay, our first step to the lamb stew is to actually season and brown the lamb, but our Potjie pot gets pretty damn hot, pretty damn fast. So we're gonna get all of our veggies ready. We are making a stew, so you can cut your veggies however you wanna cut them. Get in where you fit in. You need to get down into the splits here, really get this going. The low table, not the best thing for a back after getting throttled in the ocean for the last 2 weeks. Where is that radio? Next up, we're gonna spin right into some sweet potato. Now, when we started cooking, the wind was blowing this way. We built a fire, put a table behind said fire, and then the wind turned directly this way. Now I'm getting smoked and ash blasted. Now, the pinnacle of our lamb stew is lamb. This is actually medallions of the leg of lamb and has a much better fat content, so it makes the stew a much stewier stew. We're gonna season this with salt and pepper and then give it a good dusting with flour before we brown it. Gotta play the wind. Let's get nasty and mix these around. The flour will help with browning, getting them nice and crispy, and will also thicken up our stew a bit. All right, we haven't even started browning the meat yet, and I already forgot the main ingredient, Potjie Kos seasoning. That's the traditional flavor here that we're working with, and what is gonna make this a little bit more local than a lamb stew from anywhere else around the world. That would have been a big mistake. Okay, we have our Potjie pot, and we're letting that come up to temp. We'll check it by putting our oil in there and then sear off our lamb. Couple tablespoons into our Potjie. Oh shit, there, you really gotta play the wind. That is certainly hot enough. So now we'll brown our lamb in batches. We don't wanna overcrowd our pot. Get some of that oil all around. As we're browning these, we wanna pull them out, cook the rest of it, and then we'll get our veggies in here before we add the meat back. If you're cooking on a really hot fire, cut your veggies and have everything ready to go. This is really hot, so I definitely would have burned our lamb if I was wadded up over there cutting vegetables at the same time as doing this. A little bit more oil, and then in we go with our veggies. Onions and carrots first, give that a little whisper. Now we'll do garlic and fresh thyme. Remember your wind in the desert. Next up, a packet of tomato paste. It says cut me, but I chose the mouth. Whack that right in there. We're gonna cook that off for about 30 seconds. Okay, lamb back in. Get that juice in there. Get that all nice and acquainted. In goes the red wine. It's a worthy cause to sacrifice. Our Potjie pot is rifling hot. Can of tomato puree up next. Can of whole peeled tomatoes. And we'll give those a little break up with a spoon. Get everything nice and coated. I like this Potjie pot. Bear Grylls is gonna look at this and be like, what kind of dip cooks on an open fire downwind? Okay, now we're gonna fill this up with some water. We need one more of those bad dogs. Hard to come by around these parts. Give that a stir. Get everything. Settle down, water bottle. Okay, now we're off and stewing. Pay attention to our heat and let this cook for about 2 hours. Okay, onto the bread. We're gonna take 1 kilo. That was a carefully measured out 750 milliliter cup of water that was tepid, which is obviously now on our table in the ground, but we'll redo that and get back to it. A little windy out here, you know? Gotta play the wind. Got a fresh cup of water. So 1 kilo of flour to 750. So 1 kilo of flour to 750 milliliters of water. Good few shakes of some rosemary, salt and pepper. I'm really scared this bowl is gonna blow that way. Instant yeast. So all of our dry goods in at the same time, slowly incorporate 750 milliliters tepid water. Hopefully this adds enough weight to our bowl that it doesn't just blow onto the ground. So we'll get everything incorporated and then we'll knead it out on this steel table and do our best to avoid the rust. Okay, now let's start kneading. Table's not gonna favor this too much. It'll probably be about 5 to 10 minutes of kneading until we have a nice taut dough ball. I feel like I might break this table. Ball's getting a little tighter. Don't blow your back out kneading dough. Sweating my balls off. The dough will get really tight, and that's how you know you're ready to start your proofing. It'll get a little bit more of a sheen on it. Okay, now we're gonna take our dough ball, get it nice and tucked in, and then add a little bit of olive oil.
Yeah, loopy up.
And then add a little bit of olive oil. Carefully place this into our little cooking apparatus and our proofing box. Give it a little hit of oil on the top, a sprinkle of our rosemary, and one last little snipe of salt. Cover and proof for about 30 minutes while our stew is rifling hot and doing its thing down here on the fire. We have an absolute peanut gallery going on right here. These guys they snuck a radio in right by the set here and have been harassing me.
Jabroni.
Here we have the 3 Stooges. We're missing the 4th. He's right there. He just poked his head out of the tent. This is Zug / Brett. He's actually the beautiful mind behind this culinary experience we're having in the camp. Here we have Dr. Jones. He's crawled, climbed, and swam his way from Jackson, Wyoming. But this is kind of our show.
Ready for jabroni stew, bro? Ready for jabroni stew.
So our bread wasn't proofing that fast because it is freezing cold where we are right now. So we put it a little bit closer to the fire. That's looking spot on. Probably have another 30 minutes or so. Okay, our pot is not quite at a rolling boil, so we're just gonna add a little bit more heat underneath it. There we go. Now she's rolling. Time for our veggies. Butternut squash, sweet potatoes, and regular potatoes. And get these in without burning myself. So once these go in, we'll probably have about another hour. Lid back on with a little tilt for a little airflow. And let's check our bread. Look at the size of that demon. Put some coals underneath and add a few coals right onto the top. In about 25 to 30 minutes, we'll check it and see where we're at. And we'll have that done a little bit earlier than our stew. And then we'll get everything together and eat a delicious meal. Looking pretty good. Oh, we got some local butter that we're gonna give this thing a little basting with. Take this to the next stratosphere. Those look very good. Okay, 10 minutes till liftoff. We're gonna add some butter beans into here. Almost there. Okay, stew is finished. She's coming off carefully. Do not want to cook this all afternoon and end up wearing it. Let's get to it. Potjie pot lamb stew. Okay, let's see how our bread came out. Pretty good. A little crispy on the bottom. I got a little ambitious with some extra coals there. Should have been more patient. Lesson learned. Let's see what we're working with. Really hot. Just burning the hell out of the palm of my hand still. Yep, hot. Really hot. That's good though. That is good. Hot. Try the bread. That is good. That is so good. Worth the time. Very savory, very hearty, delicious. Have a little rip of that right in.
Little dippers.
Fuck, that's good. Pretty good, huh? Thank you, Zug and Sally. We may not have had a shower in over 2 weeks, but it doesn't mean we aren't eating well. Thanks for watching. Oh, it's perfect in the center. Thank you. Potjie pot lamb stew. Pretty hard to beat that on an open fire in the middle of nowhere.